Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Last Friday I posted a video talking about what I think is Genshin's biggest problem when it comes to the artifacts. Now here today to do a follow-up of that video because in the comment section I kind of found a way of solving this issue. It does solve the problem that I was talking about in that video, but doesn't look as nice as it could, but anyway, I'm here today to talk about that, the solution to that problem. But first I'm gonna talk about like the points I talked about in my previous video. So in case you haven't watched that one, I talk about it here because that video was more of a rant, so I don't think I worded everything as well as I could, right? So I'm here today to do just that. So before I talk the solution, I'm going to talk about the problem, right? And the points I wanted to make on that previous video. And I'm going to start about talking about what is the problem, in my opinion. And the problem is that we can't trash artifacts, right? We don't have a trash button in the artifact UI that allows us to mark an artifact as trash to make it easier to spot a trash artifact, right? And to make it easier when you craft artifact strong boxes, because then you would auto add all the artifacts that you have that are marked as trash. My problem, and the reason why I would want this to be in Genshin, is because in every other Hoyo game, I mean, Genshin Impact 3, I don't think there's something like this. It doesn't have an artifact system, right? But in Star Rail and ZZZ, even in Wuthering Waves and other games that have sort of artifact system, right? At least these three ones that I mentioned, right? They all have a way for you to trash an artifact and to lock an artifact. So in those games, when you get a new artifact, you can look at it and you can decide. You can either trash it if it is bad, just keep it unmarked if it is mid, or lock it if it is really good and you want to make it stand out from the rest, right? Like for example, this artifact, it is really good. It is cryo damage bonus, has crit rate, energy recharge, and crit damage when it comes on +4. So I can lock it. Then I have this sand, HP, for example, HP sand, that has crit rate, crit damage, but it also has attack. It's an HP one that has attack. So the only character I can think of that could benefit from this would mostly be Dihya, because she likes HP, she also likes attack for more damage and crit rate, right? Crit damage, crit rate. So I could lock it, or I can just leave it like that, because although it can be really good for like an HP DPS, right? It can be really good, but if all I get is attack, then it becomes really bad, because then I only have HP and attack, two things that don't really synergize well with most characters. So I leave it unmarked, because even though it has potential, it is also a double-edged sword, right? The same with this, right? It can be really good or it can be really bad, so I leave it unchecked. But then we have this situation, for example, where there's crit rate and crit damage and there's energy recharge. Skirk doesn't like energy recharge or HP, so I could discard it, right? Considering it's from Skirk set, but I can also lock it because it can be good for other characters depending on the rules. It's kind of funny because when I was farming, I actually got a lot of stuff that could have been good on Skirk, but it could also be good on other characters, right? For example, something I wouldn't lock, but I keep it because it can be really good, is something like this. For example, attack goblet, which is like not desirable, not desired by most characters, but it has crit rate, crit damage, elemental mastery, so it can be really good. If someone wants an attack goblet, this can be really good, but it's an attack goblet, so it's not something I would lock as a priority, but I won't trash it. So I just leave it unmarked, but I don't have a way of differentiating it from, trash, from stuff that like I'm not gonna level up, like this, for example, or for example this, like it has elemental mastery, right? But like only the energy recharge here would be good for like Kazuha or Sucrose, right? So it is kind of meh. And then because I have so many artifacts that are oh well, okay, Molan is getting kind of freaky, but because I have so many artifacts that can either be good, but I don't know yet, or they are kind of mid, so I don't mark them. I also have a lot of artifacts, there's a thing there, that are trash, so I would want to discard that, right? Discard them here, but I don't know which ones are mid and which ones are bad. And then, I just have to check each and every one to see which one I can discard, which ones I want to keep because they're mid or they can be good, right? And which ones I look and think, okay, this is pretty bad. My problem with it like we not having a trash system in Genshin is because, you know, it makes it, you have to check each and every one in the when you're crafting a strong box, right, to see which ones are mid and which ones are actually bad and you want to discard, and that takes a while, right? It takes some time and it's boring. So if you could just mark an artifact as trash from the, you know, when you are farming artifacts, then you could just come here and auto add, just like in ZZZ, in Honkai Star Rail, right, in Wuthering Waves, and, you know, all these games that have an art or something similar to the artifact system, right? You can divide the artifacts which like with like trash mark, leave it empty because it's mid, or lock it because they're good, right? So you can have a pretty good separation for all of them, right? You can like easily spot what is trash, what is okay, and what is good. But in Genshin, we don't have that. We don't have the trash mark. So like we gotta do it manually, right? And that is annoying, but it's boring. And that also goes because like the way I organize my artifacts in Genshin follows the same way I manage artifacts in other games that have a trash button and lock button, and you can separate them like that, you know, 3 tiers, the good, the bad, and the great, you know, trash, normal, mid, and good or great. You can separate them like that visually and it looks nicer, right? So that's like the problem I had, but that I still have, honestly, with the artifact system. But in the comments of my last video, there was a comment that I read, from what I understood was they explaining how they do it, and that did give me a new perspective on this problem. Made me realize that like we actually can in Genshin separate the artifacts like that, right, between the bad, the good, and the great visually, right, with these marks. You usually do it in the other games. You have the trash button, you have the normal thingy, and you have the lock, right? You have those marks, right? But in Genshin, the idea I got from that comment is that you could leave the trash artifacts like unmarked, then you could leave the okay mid ones marked, and the good or great ones with a star. And so you have the trash, the mid, and the good or great, right? And yes, that does work, because then you solve the issue of, you know, the auto add, because then you can actually come here and auto add, and it only auto adds the stuff that's not marked, right? So it does work, right? It does work. It makes you able to separate the artifacts like that, you know, between trash, mid, and good. But I still don't like it. Like, I like that because of that comment. Now I see that we can still do that on Genshin, and I would try starting to do that from now on, at least until they add trash button, if they ever do, right? But I still don't like it, because it's not as intuitive as in the other games, right? As ZZZ and Star Rail and Wuthering Waves, right? Wuthering Wave. It's not as intuitive as in those games that have the trash button and the lock, because like with the trash button, you clearly see that's trash. I want to discard it. If you don't have anything, if you have an artifact that's not marked, then it's like, okay, it's good enough to keep it, but you know, perhaps it can be great depending on the roles, or because of the roles, it is not marked. Because it's mid, it's not great, but it's also not bad, so it's not marked. And then you'd have the locked ones, which are like kind of, you know, kind of cool, kind of good, kind of, you know, kind of banging. There's some good rolls there, you know, good enough to be considered not mid, or to be considered good, and then you can lock them. But in Genshin, you can't mark them as trash, and what you have to do then is you leave something unmarked if they're trash, then you lock something that can be potentially good, right, for a certain character, and favor it if it's good for some other character, right? Like this one can be good for the, and like, yes, you still separate it just like in any other game, but I still think Genshin would benefit a lot from adding a third button, a trash button, because it makes it more intuitive, not just for veteran players or for people who play the game normally, but for new players that just come into Genshin. Perhaps they come from Star Rail, or from ZZZ, right? Or, you know, from Wuthering Waves, right? And then they just come to Genshin with knowledge of previous gachas, or maybe with not having any gacha knowledge at all, right? From any other game. So when they see that you can log an artifact and you can favorite it, you know, they might, like, again, this is me. Perhaps this doesn't happen. Perhaps I'm going crazy. But I think when you have a lock and a star, it makes you think that you want to lock stuff that is good, and like the star also just marks what is good, but you already have the lock to do that. Why is it not like in the other games where you have a trash button to discard it, right? Why you have to lock and then favorite and then leave one mark, the stuff you have to discard. Isn't it more it is more intuitive to have a trash button, so new players don't get confused, and so it just looks nicer, you know. It looks more intuitive, it looks like it's supposed to. So as much as yes, that is a solution to the problem, still don't like it. I would try doing it like that from now on until if they ever add a trash button, right? I would try doing it like that from now on. This is the only way to do it, right? But still, I think Hoyo would benefit from adding a trash button, especially if they want people to play all the Hoyo games, right? They want people playing Genshin, and they want people playing Star Rail and ZZZ, or perhaps like they go from ZZZ to Genshin, or from Genshin to this and that. Why not everything look similar or the same for this specific thing? Why not just add a trash button to it? Looks like the other games. Like maybe yes, Genshin is unique because here you actually lock and you put a star instead of just marking as trash, leaving and locking. It is different from the other games. It's unique. Yes, you can see it like that, but you can also see it as just add a trash button. It's probably not as complicated as, adding a lock assistant thingy, or this. It's probably, try to guess, it's probably easier to just add a button that, changes the UI a little bit. But then again, this is all just my opinion. Now I'm stuck here. Yeah, this is all just my opinion. And, feel free to disagree or to agree or to point why you think Genshin should have a trash button, or why you think Genshin shouldn't have a trash button. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Thanks everyone who watched, and yeah, Hoyo, please add a trash button. It's not that hard.